As the first question, what was the main reason for the writing of the Taliban narrative books? Thank you.
It's an excellent question. Let me answer it. If you study both insurgencies and counterinsurgencies from a historical perspective, you'll find out, especially in the counterinsurgency vein, that they're not won by killing and capturing the enemy. Now, the insurgency has a little more leeway than this, but the key to success in either an insurgency and a counterinsurgency is getting the support of the people. For example, the United States has a long logistics train, and at the height of our interaction, we had 104,000 troops with another 50,000 troops in NATO. And once the Central Asian airfields were closed to us, we had to rely on the port of Karachi to be able to get the logistics in to support that. That's a lot of logistics to support 154,000 plus contractors with 3 meals a day. But the Taliban, on the other hand, all they had was shalwar kameez, and they had contacts, especially in southern Afghanistan, that gave them what they needed. So, it was very difficult for the United States to be able to track them down because they were always on the move, and we're not used to that. The Taliban major strategy all along, since they reemerged as an insurgent group in 2004, and I know for a fact that they read Mao while they were regrouping in Pakistan from 2001 to 2004. But their major strategy was always to force us into mistakes. So what we did is we had maneuver elements chasing around basically madrasa students, with the madrasa students entering villages and just praying for us to drop a 500-pounder, because we knew, the Taliban knew, that every once in a while those would go awry and an innocent Afghan children or woman would be killed. And when that happened, especially in the Pashtun areas, because of their honor code, you lose that village forever. And so I wrote the Taliban book basically to see how the Taliban were attempting to win over the population, especially in the rural areas. And they had a brilliant information campaign. It was much better than the United States or Kabul's, because they knew, one of the problems with the United States was that we never spent a night in an Afghan village. We didn't know what resonated with the Afghans. The Taliban, on the other hand, knew the local politics. They kept their messages simple. They used traditional messaging that you've seen in Afghanistan for years: Shabanama, Tiranas, face-to-face, key leader engagements. They had pirate radios. When I was in Kandahar, they would text everybody in the city of Kandahar at the same time, because there's only two cell phone carriers. So, the Taliban not only knew what would resonate with the people, but they also know how to deliver it. We dropped literally billions of leaflets in Afghanistan, and most of them were meaningless. Most of them were dropped in areas where only 5% of the people were literate. They just were not, we just didn't follow. And the other thing that I want to point out why I wrote the book was that I recognized that 90% of the Afghan propaganda or narratives and associated stories involve their view of radical Deobandi Islam. And we could never respond to that, because the United States has no credibility at all in responding to anything Islamic to the Afghan people. So the Taliban basically won this war because they won the war of the story. And Kabul would never, we tried to get to Kabul to react to some of the, let me just back up a second. The Deobandism that Deobandi Islam came out of Deoband, India in, I believe, 1859. And the formers of Deobandism wouldn't recognize what the Taliban did with it, especially how they turned the Sharia law that we're using. So the United States was constantly recognizing that they could not have any credible voice to counter that, ask Kabul to do it. And Kabul never did. So basically, the information was all left to the Taliban.